Hello, everyone, and welcome to Own Your Image, Effortless Style, Branding, and Extraordinary Confidence. I'm Deshante.
I'm Kanae.
And today we have a really special guest with us, Kat Elizabeth. She is an actor turned copywriter. She's a personal branding coach. She's and strategist. She believes that branding is an inside job. Kat currently hosts a YouTube podcast and offers a monthly branding membership. Kat, we're so excited to have you on today. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thanks. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Good.
We're good. So we want to get into the very popular question, how has quarantine life been?
It's been interesting. I mean, I already work from home and have a very online virtual business. So I found that a lot of things didn't have to change, but I did find that being cooped up and just unable to do as much going around, going to events and things is a little bit frustrating. And then as we mentioned, before we hit record, not being able to get my hair done. I know it's a first world problem, but it does. It affects your confidence and your image. And I'm on Zoom calls every day and I just see my hair getting worse and worse. And I'm just holding my breath, hoping that my hairdresser opens really soon.
Yes, same over here. I'm when are we going to be able to get my nails done or something? It's stressful.
You take those things for granted, I think. I know they're only little things, but they make you feel good and it can affect your day-to-day. I think it's important to feel good about yourself. So.
Yes. Sure. So tell us a little bit about your brand.
Sure. So my sort of business brand is called the Personal Branding Project. I decided I would kind of had a personal brand before that, but I wanted something that could feel a little bit bigger than me, but also connected to me. So my sort of ultimate mission is helping other people really uncover ways to make money, get paid to do the thing that they love the most, whether that's as a full-time job or if they want to have it as a side hustle. I had a background as an actor, as you mentioned, and I've always been very multi-passionate. And I think there's a lot of messaging when we grow up that says oh, you just have to get the safe job, get that career, and just try and find time for your hobbies in your free time. And I just think if you're always living for the weekend and you don't get to do the things that you love, what is the point? Life is too short for that. So I figured out a way to pull all of the things that I love doing the most together and turn it into a brand. And it started with my work as a copywriter, getting to be a little bit more creative and helping other people, but then eventually launching the YouTube channel. And that's when I started to find my voice and my audience. And it sort of a couple of years later ended up turning into a business. And it tends to attract a lot of other multi-passionate people who are maybe struggling a little bit, feeling like they're just having to be starving artists and, just get stuck in the daily grind. And I'm really trying to help change that. So yeah, that's kind of my mission. And and I do that with the YouTube channel, as you mentioned, and I have a podcast too called the Personal Branding Project.
That's amazing. And I think, it's really important. Like you said, we do get into this cycle and living for the weekends. And we've heard that all of our life, get a job, work 9 to 5. And I think slowly that diagram is changing. Thankfully.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of us stuck in that and don't really know where to go, where the resources are. So that's great that you've built this brand. Speaking of building your brand, what would you say some of your personal morals and values that went into building your brand, and how important was that to you maintaining that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a huge one is about freedom and creativity. And that is where I found that it didn't necessarily fit inside the day jobs that I was doing, and to be able to create a life where I had that freedom to be creative and to travel around and let my brand and my business evolve, I needed to be my own boss. So that was a big part of it. And I'm also very big on honesty and transparency in what I do. So when I teach other people, I'm very much sharing from my own mistakes, because I think that's such a really good way to learn. I try and save people a lot of time and effort by just being honest about the mistakes that I've made and the things that I've learned from doing it my way, and then hopefully be able to speed up that process for them as well by, giving some shortcuts and that 20/20 hindsight that you don't have when you're inside it. And yeah, and just like connection and family is like also at the core of it. And I think that's also why, you know, being self-employed is a big part of you know, my life, and wanting to be able to, so I have family in Australia and family in Italy, and now living in Vancouver. It's just like I want to be able to feel like I can be connected and not lose my job if I want to go spend time in another country. So yeah, I think it's all of those things are very central to my brand, and I don't think you can kind of separate those things.
Love that. And since you are a personal branding coach, how do you help your clients to kind of incorporate their values into building their brand?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of work on that. It's like I have a framework that I use called the Personal Branding Blueprint, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And one of them is clarity. And in that first step, it's really important to actually figure out what your values are so that you can shape your business and your brand around them. And so we talk a lot about how, you know, the content that you create needs to reflect those values. How even if you do like a personal branding photo shoot, how the clothing that you wear and the colors that you choose could even be, you know, like reflecting those values. And they really work as a compass for knowing what you should do next. And I think that's really important because as you know, everyone has experience on social media. It's very easy to play the comparison game and think that you have to do this a certain way based on what other people are doing. And if you're really confident in, like, you have that clarity and you have your values in place at the very beginning, you understand your unique value, like what it is that you do differently to everybody else, then you can stay a bit more true to yourself and just show up as you, and hopefully get less distracted by all of the other things that people are doing, and, you know, like the FOMO and the jealousy and comparisonitis.
We're caught up in that.
It's so real, right? Because it's
Yeah.
constantly in our face. Like, you cannot get away from it, even if you're not trying. It's just, it's there.
Yeah.
So,
And a big part of when you're self-employed and building your brand, a big part of it is being online and being on the internet and on social media. And you have to be on there to, you know,
Exactly.
and let people know what you're doing and where you are. So how do you keep that personal brand, your branding, separated from your personal image? Or do you keep them separated at all?
Yeah, I think it's something that I've had to develop over time. And I really tell my clients that there is no right or wrong here. Like, it's really about being true to yourself and what you believe that you feel comfortable sharing and what your audience needs to know about you. So I used to sort of just share everything on social media. I think a lot of people do, like, as you're growing up, like, especially like, I think I started using Facebook when I was like 19 or 20. So it was like kind of late to the game. And I would just like put it all out on the table. And I didn't care that much because like I had the day job and it wasn't that big a deal. But as I started to become more of an entrepreneur, I realized, like, wow, people are looking at everything that I put out there and they're making judgments based on what I share. I need to make sure that none of this could come back to bite me. So these days I'm a lot more careful about what I share. I really believe that, you know, my close friends and families are the ones that deserve all of me, and I'm happy to share all of that, but I'm really careful not to put it on social media. And, you know, as much as I love using my mistakes and my story as a learning, like a teaching tool, I'm not someone that's just airing my dirty laundry for the sake of like having a vent and trying to make myself feel better. So I try and always frame the real life stuff as a lesson of like, and making sure it's very relevant to my audience and can actually help them. And if it can't, I generally will keep it to myself. So, you know, you'll tend to find that I'll share a nice selfie with my partner and talk about somewhere we're traveling, but I'm not sort of going like, here's my entire life. This is what my day looks like. This is what I'm eating today. 'Cause I don't think it's helpful to my audience. I don't think it's that relevant. Whereas some other people might have an audience that absolutely want to see every single detail of your day. So if you're comfortable sharing that, do it. But you have to make that decision. Don't let anyone else do that for you.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good too. Again, back to like just the social media and seeing people and how they post, and defining at the very beginning what you're going to represent, what you stand true to, your clarity, what you feel confident in.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know, you know, you started off as an actor, moved into copywriting, now this brand, and I can imagine, you know, along your journey, you may have had some fear of stepping out into different branches. How did you become confident in all those different arenas and quickly to where you are now?
It takes time. Like there is no magic switch where you're like, oh, look, I've done it now. Like I'm in the next phase. I think everything is a little bit messy and there's always going to be those like the growing phase and the teething phase. I know that when I was first making a decision to basically quit musical theater, which was what I was doing full time, I had a lot of judgment coming from people in the industry who were like, you're crazy. What are you doing? Like you're going to destroy your career. And I was like, well, I'm unhappy. So I need to do something differently. And so I think that was a stage, as much as it hurt at the time, it really taught me that some people are actually, they want the best for you and they should be in your life. The people that are judging and like making you feel bad about those kinds of decisions obviously don't know you well enough and they don't deserve to be a part of your life. And so I think I started to get a little bit more selective as to who I was letting inside my inner circle, so that I felt a little bit safer sharing the journey and, you know, knowing that it's not going to be perfect. There are going to be like these weird phases when I'm figuring things out and like, you know, like throwing spaghetti at the wall. But if you've got the right people in your circle that make you feel safe and are going to support you and cheer you on no matter what, and also be honest with you if something's not good for you, like, because, you know, you trust them that way. I think that is the key. But I'm still terrified. Every time I put something new out into the world, I feel sick. Like I use it like, it's like, that's just how it is. But I use it as like a guide that I'm doing the right thing, because if I'm that terrified and nervous and I care that much that it goes well, like that shows how invested I am and like how much I'm doing the thing that I'm supposed to do. Whereas if I hit publish and I was like, meh, who cares what people think, then clearly I shouldn't be hitting publish. Like it's not a piece of content or a brand that deserves to be out in the world. So yeah, long story short, it's always scary. Keep the right people in your circle. And if they're really making you feel like crap, cut them out. Like honestly, you don't need those kind of people around you. And just use the fear as a sign that you're doing the right thing.
That's good.
I love that. Yeah, overcoming the fear has been a common denominator that a lot of our experts have been speaking on. How do you teach the people that you work with to overcome fear? Do you have any special tips you can give the audience?
Yes.
Or
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's two sides of it. I think sometimes it's that like we have a lot of stories in our heads and a lot of beliefs that we have about ourselves and about how the world works. And sometimes they're not true. It's just like what we grew up believing. So sometimes if you feel like a fear is coming up and it's so irrational, like it's getting in the way, like for instance, I work with a lot of people who have a fear of being on camera. Camera confidence is like a massive thing. And it's one of those things where you've got to first understand, like, why am I actually so scared of this? Like, is it actually that I just like, I'm worried that people are going to judge what I'm saying? Is it that I don't believe in what I'm saying? Is it like the way that I look, you know? And so I get people to do some journaling exercises on like, what's the thought that's coming up that's causing the feeling that's leading me to do these things? And then try and rewrite it so that it's like, it's safer and you can get in a positive light. But then it gets to the point where there's only so much you can do of like internalizing and journaling, and you just have to hit record. And so, you know, I'm like, okay, now it's time. And so like, that's what I do inside my membership. I'm like, well, look, it's a small group of people. It's still scary, but this is a safe space. We're all in the same boat. This is where you get to just go live and share your story and make it imperfect, and no one's going to judge you. We're going to cheer you on. And so you can sort of like test the waters out until hopefully you're ready to go do that on your Instagram profile or over on Facebook. So yeah, there's like some mindset work, but then the rest of it is like, do it and you're going to get over it. Like it'll become your comfort zone. Even though I have a background as an actor, going over to YouTube was still terrifying because I wasn't used to talking directly to the camera. I'm not used to being me on camera. Like I'm used to playing a character. So that was very scary to me. And then 2 years after the YouTube channel, I launched the podcast and I was terrified again because it was a different kind of content. I was like, what are they going to think? I'm talking a lot more in this. Like, are they going to hate my voice? And then I just had to hit publish again and again and again. And then the feedback starts coming in and you realize that you're helping people. And you know, ultimately people don't care if your fringe is like too long, or if, you know, you've got like mascara, like a lump on your face, like as long as you're teaching them and offering some value. So I try and bring it back to that as well.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I think what I like most is that you said you have to start with the mind work, because that's where it all starts. You start telling yourself lies or things that are not or things that just don't even matter. And it's almost like if you're not dealing with that first, you're going to self-sabotage what you have to bring to the world and the value you have to offer. I need to do that.
Yes.
I know you're talking to your audience, but you're also talking to me.
Yes, thank you for that on-camera tip. We are working through that. I also love what you said, that you just have to hit the record button. You just gotta go sometimes, because like Christy was saying, Kane was saying, that you can self-sabotage by thinking too much and trying to perfect. And sometimes you gotta let it go and just hit record, and it's out in the world.
Exactly. And if it helps one person, that was the thing I always brought it back to, then like that's enough. And if you can help one person, you can help more people. But if you never hit record, like you are literally hiding yourself from the world. All of the value you have to offer is just going to like die in a corner somewhere. So it's really important. You've got to think, do I actually care about making an impact? Well, then I need to get over my ego and just create.
Yes. Love that. So we'll switch gears just a little bit and walk into the fashion world.
Yes.
Do you connect with the message, when you look better, you feel better?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, I think for people that work from home, this is a struggle we go through, because often when you have somewhere to go, a nice office, like you make the effort every day and you have like a sense of pride about what you dress, like what you're wearing and everything, because you're like, people can see me. When you start working from home, you get into like, I'm just going to wear track pants or wear my pajamas all day. As long as I'm okay up here, like no one needs to know what's going on down below, because it's all about being on Zoom. But it really affects my self-confidence. I find that my productivity suffers when I'm not feeling like, I actually sometimes just like getting done up, even to work from home, because I notice that I just switch into work mode and I take more pride in everything that I'm doing. And I'm also more likely to like create a piece of content to go on Instagram than if I'm just like, lounging around in my pajamas, which I do way too often.
Especially now, right?
Yeah.
We're all in the house.
Yeah.
You all feel it now. It's like, it's not just us.
But I think that's so important. We have talked to for the people that have joined us, whatever day we're on. The common theme, especially now we're in quarantine, right? So the majority of people are at home and trying to make a new life. And I think this is a really good tip for everyone, because even if you're not working from home, get up and get dressed, because it's gonna make you feel better. Even despite what's going on in the world, it's gonna give you an extra boost, just because you have that confidence of looking better.
For sure.
Going to the kitchen and grab a cup of coffee.
Yeah, you can be feeling yourself even if you're doing that. And that's it. Like I think there's already so much going on at the moment. There's so many things that are bringing everyone down. We've got a lot on our minds that like, we don't need to add to it by also letting ourselves go. Like it's like this downward spiral. So I think this is like one of the few things that is in our control at the moment, and we've got to do something. And then hopefully that then leads to more action and things start to improve. But it's like, it's so easy to not do it as well, because there's just less motivation at the moment. So, and I think you can have days off, that's okay. But like, choose to have a day off. Don't let every day just become an accidental day off.
Right,
that's
right.
good.
That's a really good thought. So, because you do coach brands, how important is fashion when you're coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I really think like a personal brand, it's you. And whether you're showing up in person or it's you on social media or you're doing a photo shoot, like what you wear it has a huge reflection on your personality and, like we said, your values and everything. And we can't help it. We make judgments based on how people look. That's often the first impression that we get. So I think it's really important and it's not to say that, oh, you have to dress in designer clothing and look a certain way. I think it's more about understanding your audience, what's going to resonate with them. What do you feel good in? What do you think it like really does reflect the offer that you know, the value that you put out in the world, and making sure that it's consistent. Because I think like it's that confusion sometimes, like if people show up one day like wearing this beautiful tailored suit and then the next day like they're in their gym clothes and you're like, oh, okay, so like, who are you? Like, what do you do? It's like different when you're with your best friend because they see you in all, you know, in all elements. But yeah, for your own audience, if you're trying to build like a legitimate personal brand, I think come up with some sort of signature style that becomes recognizable, that you can really own, and that can like translate whether you're going to just be on a Zoom call or you're going to be in a personal branding shoot or whatever, like the version of that is like to go to an event. It's really important, and it just makes life a lot easier if you don't have to like second guess what you're going to wear when you go into these kind of things as well.
Right. And what I'm hearing is that, you know, we're doing all of this work in the mind, we're doing this work about building confidence, we're learning about the brand, but even as much as going into the fashion, that's now an extension of all the previous work that you've been doing, and sort of like evolving and I guess building who you are. It's like a full package. And so
Absolutely.
yeah,
and I think so many people put a lot of work, like they get the logo and the color palette and the beautiful website, and then they're like forgetting that they're actually the most important part of their brand. Like if you're a personal brand, it's all about you, and you need to make sure that the website looks like you, as opposed to just like having this website and you hiding in the background. And like, I know some people that don't even put their photo on their personal branding website. I'm like, we want to know who you are. Like, it's not that we're expecting you to look absolutely perfect, but it's about your personality. And it's just like our clothing says so much about who we are and what to expect. I think, yeah, people like to be able to understand you in a glance, I guess.
yeah.
So, I'm curious, do you find that a lot of people struggle when they are coming to you to build their brands with choosing which fashion represents them, or with their clothing, what to wear?
Yeah, I think it often happens because a lot of people come from corporate where it's like, it's so set, it's very rigid, like what you need to wear can fit in this little, box. Whereas once you work for yourself, like you can really wear absolutely anything you want. And sometimes having too many options is the thing that just leaves us completely overwhelmed. And so trying to adjust and go like, what is this version of me now that I don't have to be in a suit or in something really buttoned up, but where you also don't want to look like daggy, as we say in Australia, like where you look really casual and like a slob, basically, because it's so like you feel like it's so easy to be one or the other. Finding that sweet spot where you're comfortable to actually work maybe from home all day, and you have a job that's not corporate, maybe it's creative. How do you express yourself? And so I think people tend to need a lot of guidance there. And I've worked with personal stylists before, but I struggle with that too. And because I think we change so much as well. Like, every year or two, I find my own personal style changing. My personality continues to evolve. And so the clothing we were attached to 5 years ago is completely irrelevant now. And I feel like I'm wearing a costume almost when I wear it. So it's important to like stay up to date and like redefine that for yourself.
Yeah, that's also really important. Like you said, looking back at my style, if I go back to even college years, I'm like, whoa, what was I doing?
Yeah,
like there's no way in
Yeah.
the world that I would put that on now, but back then it was like I was the best thing.
yeah.
And I as we evolve, as we grow in our journey, as we're learning about ourselves and building our brands, it's like it's an evolution of style, evolution of the journey, and you have to be in tune and know when to change and pivot. So that's really good. One more thing on style. What do you say, I guess, what makes you feel most confident in your closet? What do you wear that you're going to show up, you're going to deliver?
I guess probably my signature style, like this is something I feel like I'm going through an evolution at the moment, and I'm needing to like get rid of a lot of the old stuff. But the thing that hasn't really changed for me is always just going some skinny jeans, a printed tee, and like a really bright blazer. Like I've got my bright red and I've got my pink, and I've also got an emerald green. So that's kind of my fail safe. No matter where I'm going, I'm like, if I put that on, if I add a pair of heels or some boots, I know that I'm just like, okay, this is me. And it's really cool because people are starting to get to know, like when I show up at events now, and they're like, oh, got your blazer on, like, but it's become my signature thing. So yeah, I would say that that's it. Beyond that, I like have trouble like defining what my style is. Like it tends to be fairly minimalist. And I always am torn between like leopard print heels and like Converse sneakers. Like I have this strange, like I'm one or the other kind of thing. But if I can somehow combine the two styles, then I'm probably happiest.
Okay, wow. You know, there's been a few of our experts who have actually said they love a blazer and jeans, and I'm like, what audience out there? Obviously, we're talking about effortless style. That may be an effortless style kind of like
Yeah.
uniform, if I was to say, like a
Yeah.
t-shirt, a blazer, and your favorite pair of jeans. It sounds like it's like almost a consensus. I feel like a lot of experts have spoken about that, so I love that. Um, just moving on, we're going to kind of get into talking about your confidence. So we know that you have transitioned from acting world to the coaching world, and you also coach others and deal with a lot of different personalities and people.
Mhm.
How would you say that, well, how did you find your confidence?
It's something that has been a lifelong battle. Like I was never someone that was very confident. Like I had confidence in my abilities, but not necessarily in like myself as a whole. Like I was very shy. I was very sensitive. I was never someone who like owned what she was doing, and it held me back a lot. Where other people were like would go to auditions and just be like, yeah, I'm the best, of course I'm going to get the role. I'd be like, I'm not good enough for this role, and like obviously that's going to have an effect on the outcome.
Yeah.
So I've had to do a lot of work on that. And again, like some of it has been like working with my own coaches and like reading a lot of books. Some of it has just been showing up and doing my thing and getting better and better at it. But I find a lot of it has also been making sure that I have like I've said this before, but like the right people around me. I realized that sometimes if I had like groups of friends that were fairly toxic, where there was like a lot of jealousy and comparison, I would just feel worse about myself every time I saw them. Whereas when I started to get like way more, like I shrunk my inner circle to just be like the best people in my life that lift me up and celebrate me and, you know, really truly believe in me and that I can do anything that I want to do, that started rubbing off on me as well. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing that helped my confidence was becoming self-employed, because when I was trying to fit into the box of, you know, whether it was like with a day job, like working in real estate, or, you know, as an actor where I just like auditioned to fit like this mold, I found that I always felt like I was lacking because they just wanted something like this. And if you didn't quite fit it, or if you had more things going on, they were like, oh, well, we don't want that. But when you kind of become your own boss, you get to decide what the mold is, like it fits to you perfectly. And then I started to getting to like create my own work and put my stamp on things. And I started to take a lot of pride in what I did. And, you know, when I started helping other people, I think giving back to other people is a really amazing way of increasing your confidence, because it takes the focus off your ego and you can actually do some good. And then you just start to feel better and you stop thinking about like, oh, do I look right? Or am I like, is there something wrong with me? So yeah, it's just been a lot of different things. But I think the number one thing is having really good friendships and relationships and cutting out anyone that makes you question your confidence, which could be challenging sometimes because like maybe they're family members or maybe it's a boss, or, you know, like they're kind of stuck there. So that's when you have to develop those filters and create a bit of safe space where you just don't let them in to your, you know, to your thoughts, I guess.
Right, because you already have your own thoughts. So
Yeah.
you don't want like double whammy of other thoughts adding on top of that, and then you're not making any progress. So that's really important. You know, I think I learned that too.
Yeah.
Along the journey of just making sure you have a good support system. It's so, so, so important. And sometimes it's not family all the time.
Right.
Oh no, sometimes you have to choose your family. That can be really important. And yeah, because you're most vulnerable to your family's judgment because you love them so much and their blood. And so when they say something, like it can really sting. So I have gone through phases where I've had to create a little bit more distance. Like my family is incredible, but they were maybe getting in the way of my mindset and what I was doing at the time. And I just needed that little bit of space to just do my thing. And then once I was feeling a bit more secure, then just like invited them back into the inner circle again.
I love that. I love that you said you may have to have kept them at a distance for a season until you built yourself up, and then you were allowed to bring them back in. And sometimes we have to do that with family and with friends, or
Yes.
whoever it may be. We may have to, for a season, they may be out of our lives and they may be gone forever. They may come back. We don't know, but building yourself up is really important. And
Yeah, you need to look after yourself. It's so important. It's so easy to put everybody else first, but like if you are not at your best and you're questioning yourself and you're really struggling, you can't actually be that helpful to anyone else around you. Like you're going to have less to give. So it's such a like contradiction sometimes because you feel like you're being selfish, but you have to kind of, occasionally there's times where you're like, oh, I'm not doing that well. Like I need to do something differently to get like feel good and get safe again. And then it's like you just can open things up and it's like just easier to celebrate because some people don't mean to bring you down either. Like it's just their own stuff comes on you, and because you're extra sensitive, like you're just going to take it to heart even if they're just being themselves. So it's not always up to them like being toxic or them needing to change. It just might be that you're not in the right headspace to deal with them.
Yeah, so true.
So we've talked about your quarantine life. We talked about your values, branding, confidence, style. We've learned so much about you. The last question that we have for you is, what does it mean to truly own your image?
I think it's really understanding that every single one of us is so different and for a reason. And like life would be incredibly boring if we were all the same and there were like 10 of each of us or 100 of each of us, and knowing that everything that we have that was like sort of given to us that like makes us quirky and unique and sometimes we might see as a flaw is actually quite beautiful, and people find it fascinating and it draws them to us. And the more real that we can become, the more like we just own who we are without trying to make changes to ourselves. Not saying I'm against like getting your hair done and putting some makeup on, but really feeling like you're not enough. That like when you're in that state of mind, you're not going to attract any good in your life. The second you go, I've got something unique to offer, I look the way I do, I sound the way I do, I have all of these unique talents and I can offer value to the world, that's when you start really attracting incredible opportunities. All the right people come into your circle. You start attracting more money and more, influence and visibility. But it's something that you don't just magically have. Like we have to work on it every day. And I don't think there's an end destination. We all always still have more work to do on ourselves, but that's okay. You've got to just like make the most of what you've got right now.
Love that. Love that. Abundance comes to you when you really are confident in who you are overall, is what I hear you saying. I really love that.
Yes, and also giving part of yourself, sharing with others brings essentially more blessings. If you're a blessing, blessing, and you'll get blessings, and it's sort of just like a full circle.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
I know that you have a special gift for our audience. Let us know what that's about.
Yeah, so it's called the Personal Branding Blueprint. It's based on my own 5-step framework for personal branding. And there is actually a section about how you show up, the way you look, like how that's going to reflect your brand as well. And it basically just kind of walks you through the 5 different steps and gives you exercises and checklists and all of that kind of thing to start finding more clarity and start owning what makes you different, whether you're trying to build like a business brand or if it's just for you, like showing up on Instagram. Like it doesn't really matter. I think it applies to absolutely everyone. So there's tons of information in that. And yeah, if you sign up to it, I'll also just like send you an email and welcome you into my free Facebook group and send a whole bunch of other resources because I'm the like forever teacher. So I'll always be giving you more.
So good. You guys get that free gift. I know you all want more clarity. I want more clarity.
Yeah.
So
clarity.
We do.
Yeah.
And then how can we stay in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. So the best way is I like hanging out on Instagram. So you can find me at I am Kat Elizabeth, or you can just go to personalbrandingproject.co and all my information, including links to everything else is there. So all my other socials and the podcast and the YouTube. So either way, I'd love to hear from you.
Amazing.
So thank you so much for being with us today, Kat, and thank you so much for pouring into the audience. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Pouring into us. You pour into us too.
Yay! I'm glad.
And I guess we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.